If somebody had told me several years ago that one day I would pass the JLPT N1 exam, I honestly don't think that I would have believed them. Back then, Japanese felt almost impossible. I couldn't understand and read the writing and characters. I couldn't understand conversations. Even the simple sentences felt completely foreign. But for some reason, I kept coming back to it. At first, it wasn't because I wanted a certificate. It wasn't because I wanted to become fluent as fast as possible. After my first ever holiday to Japan while I was in high school, I simply found Japan fascinating. The language, the culture, the people. Every new word that I learned felt like opening a tiny window into a completely different world. Looking back now, I don't think I began learning Japanese because I believed that I could reach N1. I began because I was curious and interested in both Japan and the Japanese language. And sometimes, curiosity is all that you need to begin something that eventually changes your life. I think every language learner remembers what the beginning feels like. Everything is difficult. Every sentence feels painfully slow. You spend several seconds trying to remember a single word. You celebrate reading your first sentence, only to afterwards realize that there are 10,000 things more that you don't understand yet. I remember looking at pages filled with kanji and wondering, how do people actually read this? There were times where progress felt almost invisible, but I also realized something important. Every single learner starts from there. Nobody begins by understanding native conversations. Nobody skips straight to fluency. Everyone who is fluent today was once struggling with the exact same hiragana and katakana that beginners are now learning. Then, something happened that I think every single language learner experiences, not all at one go, but little by little, bit by bit. Japanese stopped feeling like a school subject and began feeling like a real language. Maybe it was being able to understand something without translating it. Maybe it was ordering food in Japan, or reading a sign that made perfect sense suddenly. These moments seem small, but they are very motivating because for the first time, you realize that your effort is becoming something practical. You are no longer just studying Japanese, you are actually using it. And that's the moment where many people fall in love with the Japanese language. As I improved, I expected learning Japanese to become easier, and in some ways, it did. But in other ways, it became even more challenging. The basics slowly became familiar, but the language itself became much bigger. There were thousands more words, more kanji, longer grammar patterns, faster conversations, and on top of that, I also realized that textbook Japanese and real Japanese are not always the same. Native speakers shortened sentences, left words out, spoke naturally. Suddenly, I wasn't only learning vocabulary anymore. I was also learning how people actually communicated, and that felt like an entirely new stage of the journey. If I were to be honest, I don't think that the hardest part of learning Japanese was the beginning. The hardest part came later. It was the stage where I knew enough Japanese to realize just how much more I still didn't know. Every time I learned 50 new words, I discovered 100 more that I had never seen before. Every time I became comfortable with one grammar point, there seemed to be a new one that's waiting around the corner. Sometimes it felt like I wasn't improving at all. Looking back now, I realized that I was actually improving, just not in ways that were easy to notice. And I think that this is true for many things in life. The same goes for gym training, learning the piano, cooking, and so on. Progress is often invisible while it's happening. You only realize how far you have come when you stop and look back. There wasn't one magical technique or method that made me fluent in Japanese overnight. Instead, it was the consistency and lots of small habits repeated over a long period of time. I kept reading, I kept listening, I kept learning new vocabulary, I kept traveling to Japan whenever I could, and also partially because I really enjoy Japan. I even changed my phone settings to Japanese to force myself to read Japanese every single day. Slowly, Japanese stopped feeling like something I studied, and it became part of my everyday life. One thing that really changed my mindset was accepting that there was no need to understand everything 100%. If I understood 70 or 80% or something, that was already enough to keep going. Over time, that 70% became 80, then 85, then 90%. Looking back, consistency mattered far more than trying to study perfectly. It wasn't about having one amazing week of studying. It was about showing up again and again, even on ordinary days, even on days that felt like there was no progress, even on the days that it felt boring. Over time, I actually challenged different levels of JLPT, starting from the bottom up, then to N3 and N2. Eventually, I figured that it was time to challenge myself with the JLPT N1 examination, which was the most difficult exam in the JLPT. To be honest, it felt very intimidating and difficult. JLPT N1 has a reputation for being very difficult, even for local Japanese. And when I look at practice questions for the first time, they were indeed extremely difficult. I still remember thinking, people can actually understand all of this, so I approached it one step at a time. Instead of worrying about the entire exam, I focused on what I was about to study today, one day at a time, one chapter at a time, one reading passage at a time, one listening exercise at a time, one set of new words at a time. Bit by bit, those small sessions added up. I never woke up one morning feeling completely ready for JLPT N1. I simply reached a point where I thought, I've done everything that I reasonably can. Whatever happens shall happen. And sometimes that is more than enough. When the exam day finally arrived, I still remember feeling surprisingly calm. I was even talking to friends all morning about things that were completely unrelated to JLPT. I was calm not because I knew every answer, not because I knew every single word, but because I knew that I had done the hard work already. Sitting in the exam room, there were definitely questions that I couldn't answer. There were passages that I found difficult. There were words that I had never seen before in my life. Even though I was a bit demoralized, I told myself that perfection was not the goal. The goal was simply to do my best. After the exam, all I could do was to wait. And honestly, waiting for the results might have been more difficult than taking the exam itself. I kept trying to search for answers online and even predicted my score for the JLPT N1. I was even worried and overthinking if I wasn't able to pass. Then, on the results day, as I was on the train from Shinjuku to Kawaguchiko, I opened the results page through my phone, with my hands shaking. I had passed, with 133 out of 180. It wasn't a dramatic moment. It was quiet, but it was one of the most satisfying moments of my entire Japanese learning journey. Because the result wasn't just about one examination, it represented years of small, consistent effort finally coming together. There are times where other people heard that I passed JRPT N1 and assumed that I became fluent in Japanese overnight. But honestly, that's not how it works. Passing JRPT N1 does not mean that I know every single Japanese word. It does not mean that I understand every single conversation perfectly. And definitely, it doesn't mean that I stopped making mistakes. What it did mean, however, was that I had built a strong foundation in Japanese. I could read Japanese much more comfortably. I could enjoy conversations with far more confidence than before, and perhaps most importantly, I no longer felt intimidated by Japanese. JLPT N1 was not the finish line. It simply gave me the confidence to keep exploring the language and keep improving myself. And I think that this is a much healthier way to look at any milestone. A milestone isn't the end of the journey. It's proof that you are capable of continuing. If I were to look back now, there are definitely things that I would change. I think I was too worried about being perfect. I wanted to understand every single word, grammar point, and kanji, but language learning doesn't really work that way. If I could start again, I would spend less time chasing perfection and more time simply enjoying Japanese. I would also read more, listen more, have more conversations, and accept that forgetting or not knowing words is completely normal. Progress isn't about never making mistakes, it's about making a little bit less of the same mistakes over time. And honestly, I feel that learning became much more enjoyable once I had accepted this. Here is one piece of advice to you if you are currently studying Japanese. Don't compare your chapter 1 to somebody else's chapter 20. Every single fluent speaker was once a complete beginner. Every single person who passed N1 once struggled to remember the difference between wa and ga. Your journey will look exactly the same like mine, and it shouldn't be. Learn at your own pace. Celebrate the small victories and wins, such as the first sentence you understand, the first conversation you have, and the first book that you finish. Those moments matter more than people realize, because one day you will look back and realize that they were the building blocks of everything that came afterwards. When I first began learning Japanese, I never imagined that it would become such a huge part of my life. It has taken me to places that I never thought I would visit. It has introduced me to people. It has allowed me to experience Japan in ways that I couldn't have imagined when I first learned hiragana. Looking back, I'm grateful that I didn't quit during the difficult moments, because none of these moments are stopped forever. They are simply part of the journey. Passing JLPT N1 is something that I'm very proud of. But if you were to ask me today what I'm most grateful for, it isn't the certificate. It's everything that learning Japanese has allowed me to experience. The exam was one milestone. The journey is still continuing, and honestly, it always will. Thank you so much for watching. And if you are currently learning Japanese or any new skill, I hope that this video reminds you that progress doesn't happen all at once. It happens one small step at a time. See you in the next video.